and I'm excited to announce that I'm signing with PFL.
I am officially a MMA fighter. I signed to the PFL.
Fight fans, tonight we're covering a seismic shift in the world of MMA. Several top talents formerly associated with the UFC have inked major headline-making deals with the Professional Fighters League, or PFL. What does it mean for the sport, for fighter pay, and for the UFC's dominance? Let's dive in. Tonight, we're covering a seismic shift in the world of MMA. Several top talents formerly associated with the UFC have inked major headline-making deals with the Professional Fighters League, or PFL. What does it mean for the sport, for fighter pay, and for the UFC's dominance? Let's dive in. One of the most talked about signings is Francis Ngannou, the former UFC heavyweight champ, who moved over to PFL in a deal that gives him access to super fights, a share of pay-per-view revenue, leadership roles within the organization, and freedom to pursue his boxing ambitions.
Francis, welcome to the PFL. Everybody, it is official. This is massive, 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 massive news in MMA. We have some huge fights on the horizon. Congratulations, Francis. You deserve this. The best heavyweight in the world to the PFL. And PFL Africa is going to be massive. So excited. Let's go.
Then there's Cédric Doumbé, a kickboxing phenom and former UFC signee, who revealed that his fight-by-fight payout with PFL is dramatically higher than what he was offered by UFC. He said his PFL contract pays roughly $140,000 per fight, compared with a potential UFC deal of $20,000 to show, plus another bonus for a win.
For sure, a knockout. Which round? I still don't know, because, he looked tough, but some people look tough, but they are not. So for sure I'm gonna knock him out. I have to show him who am I, Cédric Doumbé, the best kickboxer in the world, so knockout for sure, for sure.
Another big acquisition, Paul Hughes, an up-and-coming lightweight prospect. Hughes was reportedly pursued by several promotions, including the UFC, but ultimately signed an exclusive multi-fight contract with PFL. He cited not just money, but the chance to stay active, compete regularly, and participate in PFL's $1 million season tournament structure as big draws. For the UFC, losing high-profile signings is a signal that its dominance is being challenged, not just in terms of prestige, but in retaining talent. As more fighters publicly compare contract offers, purses, scheduling, and ancillary freedoms, the UFC will be under pressure to evolve its model or risk seeing more of its roster migrate to competitors. There's also the optics and recruiting battle. Being able to claim you're signing the biggest names, offering the best terms, is a major recruiting tool. When PFL lands fighters who could have gone to UFC, it enhances its legitimacy and could shift where up-and-comers set their sights. But it's not all smooth sailing for PFL. Scaling up fighter pay and guarantees places financial burden, especially when pay-per-view revenues or event revenues fluctuate. There's also the risk that some signings don't turn into headline bouts, or that fighters under PFL don't get the same mainstream exposure. For fighters, moving promotions means risk, less established fan base in certain regions, potential for fewer marquee UFC broadcasts, perhaps fewer mega sponsorships tied to the UFC brand. Also, UFC's depth and global reach still outsize many rivals. So, staying relevant outside UFC requires consistently delivering exciting fights and building one's brand.
Question is about, are we nervous about Francis? Maybe nervous about this outcome? No. The Professional Fighters League is different from the other guys. The other guys are promoter-driven league, and they have stakes in certain fighters winning. They put a lot of investments in Sugar Shane O'Malley. They work to make sure he wins. They invest a lot in marketing, hoping he's the next Conor McGregor. And then he falls flat, and they're disappointed. That's not what Professional Fighters League is about. We're a fighter-driven league. The fighters control their destiny. If they win, they advance. If they win 4 times, they become world champion in the league season. $1 million in the belt. I don't control anything here. I don't have favorites. I root for them all. That's what makes Professional Fighters League so great. Fighter-driven versus promoter-driven. Doesn't matter who wins and loses here to us. We root for them all, we support them all. There's 650 million MMA fans in the world, and right now you only get 60 great fights a year. 40 from UFC, 20 from Professional Fighters League. Well, it's 4,000 soccer matches. So all of you should be fans of both UFC and PFL. There's only 60 great fights a year, and there's 650 million fans. So it's not either or, it's two great companies who have very different things. The second thing, we have equal fighter talent, professional fighters. Yes, the UFC's brand is bigger. We recognize that for the new guy. We have to work harder in year 5, during year 30. But if push came to shove, and it was 5 fights, we picked 5, they picked 5, let me tell you, they wouldn't do that. Because we went half and they went half. We went half and they went. That's why Dana, #Dana scared, would never do that. He knows that, and we know that. So, but big fans of all. We love all fighting. We root for all fighters and watching both.
Looking forward, the MMA world could see more of this trend. Major free agents using leverage, tighter contract negotiations, and promotions using deep pockets plus flexible terms to attract top talent. The UFC may respond with its own adjustments. Better fighter revenue share, more flexible contracts, or new tournament formats. Fans can expect more cross-promotion talk, more super fights outside traditional UFC cards, and maybe even legal or regulatory scrutiny on fighter pay and contract restrictions. The MMA world is buzzing this week after reports surfaced that the Professional Fighters League, once hailed as the sport's most fighter-friendly promotion, is cutting back its iconic $1 million championship prize. What was once the centerpiece of PFL's identity has suddenly become a flashpoint for controversy, and the reaction from fans has been anything but quiet. For years, PFL set itself apart from the UFC and Bellator by promising fighters an equal shot at life-changing money through its season-style format. Win enough fights, climb through the tournament bracket, and you'd walk away with 7 figures in championship gold. It was a system that rewarded consistency, grit, and performance. A dream structure for hungry athletes trying to make their name in the sport. But as whispers turned into reports that the $1 million prize would be scaled down or removed for certain divisions, that dream began to look a lot less golden. The fan backlash wasn't just emotional, it was also pointed. Many critics questioned PFL's long-term financial model, suggesting the organization may have overextended itself with high-profile acquisitions, the Bellator merger, and attempts to break into pay-per-view. If you promise fighters $1 million payday and can't follow through, what message does that send to future prospects? One analyst wrote. The PFL built its image on the idea of being the fighter-first alternative to the UFC. Now it risks being seen as another promotion making cuts at the expense of its athletes.
I was gonna say Bellator has had Hawaii events.
Bellator could put on a fight in the parking lot. Dude, I can't even believe you just said that. PFL-ator could, you know PFL-ator was here on Friday. Did anybody know that? You're the media guys. I didn't know till Friday. They were selling tickets, buy 2, get 2 free. I'm not busting on them, that's a fact. They put out a memo, buy 2, get 2 free. You're having a bad week if those are the memos you're putting out. There were more people in my green room tonight than there were at the fight.
To be fair, PFL leadership hasn't fully denied or confirmed the reported changes. Some insiders suggest the move might be temporary, part of a restructuring plan to stabilize finances and integrate the Bellator roster. Others say it's a necessary shift towards sustainability, arguing that consistent smaller payouts may be healthier long-term than one massive annual prize. Still, that hasn't done much to calm the outrage among fans and fighters who bought into the original vision. Even fighters have begun to voice their frustration. A few Bellator veterans who transitioned to PFL after the merger have already spoken out about delays in fight scheduling and reduced transparency around pay. Now, with prize cuts entering the conversation, morale among fighters appears to be slipping. The money was the dream, one fighter told reporters. Without that million, the season just doesn't feel the same. Still, not everyone is writing PFL off. Some fans and analysts
gajillion dollars, and then they immediately went in debt, and they're like, okay, well, we can't afford this anymore. That's probably why he wasn't there. I think the company's going under. They just have no money, bro.
But here's the thing, they're gonna rise because guess they're not. The only MMA promotion on ESPN is down.
Okay, cool. Guess who's not gonna watch it? Me. And that means they're going under, okay?
And that was our Forbes business take on the PFL.
Jake Paul, the YouTuber turned boxer turned MMA advocate, has been one of the PFL's loudest voices since signing with the organization back in 2023. His deal with the PFL was groundbreaking, creating the Super Fight division, a pay-per-view branch designed to give fighters a 50-50 revenue split, something unheard of in combat sports. Paul's mission was clear from day one: challenge the UFC's control of the MMA business and fight for better fighter pay across the board. So when fans began to blast PFL online for reducing the tournament prize, Jake Paul's name was immediately pulled into the conversation. Many expected him to defend the company, but in typical Jake Paul fashion, he didn't hold back on the realities of fight business. Paul reminded critics that the economics of combat sports are constantly changing, saying in one recent interview, "Yesterday's price is not today's price." It was his way of acknowledging that big guarantees, whether for fighters or promotions, depend on market performance. Still, his tone suggested he understood why fans were frustrated. Jake Paul, never one to shy away from controversy, fired back at critics who questioned his motives. He reminded them that fighters' pay is still far better than the UFC's lower tiers, and that PFL is experimenting with a more sustainable financial structure. He even hinted that the prize cut controversy could push the league to evolve, moving away from static bonuses toward performance-based revenue sharing, something he claims will reward fighters who bring real numbers. Jake Paul, meanwhile, continues to walk a fine line, defending the brand he represents while acknowledging the frustrations of the community he claims to champion. His message to fighters remains consistent: stay vocal, know your worth, and make promotions compete for your talent.
Announce you that I'm officially partner of the PFL for the next step of my career.
That's right, ladies and gentlemen. You read the title correctly. I'm officially signed as an MMA fighter to the fastest growing sports league in the world. The PFL.
Thanks for watching, fight fans. This has been Octagon HQ, your home for everything MMA, from breaking news to behind-the-scenes drama. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell so you never miss the next round of Fight Talk. Until next time, stay sharp, stay savage, and we'll see you inside the Octagon.